Every person has a story, but not everyone has a place to tell it. I've interviewed amazing people all over the planet. I want you to meet them.
Hello, I'm Tom Stevenson. I'm the most interesting person you've never met. I was an accountant all my life, and now I'm so lucky to be able to help businesses and churches feed kids that are hungry in the weekends. I love what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, Tom Stevenson, welcome to the most interesting person you've never heard of podcast. You are the first and probably will be the last accountant that I'd ever have on who I think is interesting. Now, maybe
an accountant is a banker with a personality.
Okay, maybe not then. I have not had a banker yet, I don't believe. I probably never will. So where did you grow up? This is great because I know some about you. And literally, we were in a meeting today, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to be on the podcast?" And you're like, "How about today?" Sure. I know you went to the University of Idaho.
Yeah.
But outside of that, did you grow up here? You
Yeah,
must have, because you knew this building that we're in right now was a 7-Eleven in 1970. So you've been here that long.
Right. So I grew up on first house we were in is 27th and Hatch, and then I lived on 46th and Helena, and grew up there. And and if my wife was here, she'd say, "Oh yeah, Tom's never lived more than a mile from his mom," and it's kind of true because the house we lived in, we just sold it. On one side is Helena, and the other side's Hatch. Mm-hmm. I've lived on either Helena or Hatch pretty much all my life.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think just because Mom was nearby, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm all Spokane.
You're all sure. Spokane. Okay.
Yeah,
so where did you go to high school? That's the question.
Went to Hamblin and then Sac and then Ferris. Actually went to Fatima for a while, but then Hamblin, Sac, and Ferris.
Oh yeah, Fatima. Right. Yeah. Well, my son Nick went to Hamblin, and he went to Chase.
Yeah.
Because there was no Chase then.
No.
Wow. Okay, cool. And so what got you, I know you went to the accounting world.
Right.
I mean, Moss Adams is for those who don't know, and you should by the time you've seen this, but you were the managing partner there for
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Both here and Seattle?
No, just here.
Just here. So what led you to that? What would make a guy like that? I guess if you're an accountant, you do stay within a few blocks of your mom.
Yeah. I had the chance, actually. They wanted me to go be the managing partner of the San Francisco office. And I almost did it, but it's too far from Mom. Couldn't do it. But I was with Moss Adams for 45 years, and as I tell people, I had like 5 careers, but never changed firms. Just completely different things I did within Moss, which is the wonderful thing about an accounting firm. There's just so much you can do, so many different directions.
So what did you do? What were the 5? I would think that if you're an accountant's an accountant, but right?
I started out doing, actually, it was a little firm for a couple of years first that we merged into Moss Adams, but we did accounting systems for Indian tribes. We had designed a system for the Coeur d'Alene tribe, and somebody from the Bureau of Indian Affairs came along and loved it. Asked us to go down to Lewiston and put it in for the Nez Perce tribe.
When was this about?
Oh, this was probably 80.
Wow.
1979, 80.
Wow.
And then they came by and they wanted us to teach some classes. So we taught one in Kansas City and in San Francisco. And what was interesting is the tribes loved the system, but they really didn't have the horsepower to install them. So I spent about maybe 4 years on the road, going to all these tribes all over Nevada.
Interesting. And
I loved it. And what was cool is I didn't go and stay for a week. I stayed for 2 or 3 days, but I met fascinating people, and it was just a great experience.
So I'm really honored to work with a few tribes over the years, and it is, it's a very different. It's different, not that different, but it's different. And in fact, the first video project I ever did was for Jim Dissatel, who just passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love that guy. And Jim had a project for me, and it was all around the cultural. It was really a guide for the gringo who was going to go work for a tribe, right? And, to understand the culture and to understand the difference of that. And I was a pretty young guy. I was early 20s, and Jim worked with me on it and wrote with me on it. And was patient,
Yeah.
because I was pretty green, but it turned out great.
Yeah.
Won actually a bunch of awards, and I never forget that kind of experience. And I remember being in a room with him because he was native too. He was a Colville.
Yeah.
And telling me, he said, we're going to go into a meeting with these some of the elders of the tribe, and their elders are going to be in the room. And I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. And we got there, and there wasn't that many people in there. And I was like, what's he talking about? And later on, he said, the elders were there. They just weren't. We couldn't see them. Right. We couldn't physically see the elders, but their presence was there.
Yeah.
And I could feel it. I'm a Pisces, I can sort of feel stuff. And I never forgot that. I thought, they are here. They're, dead serious about this. And, their way of the world is so, I just found it really interesting. Oh. I've always found it interesting.
I've met fascinating people. People that, say, hey, Tom, let's go to dinner. And we'd drive for miles to some little place on a river, and have catfish for dinner. And it was just.
Any particular people or stories you remember the most from that surprised you?
I'd go to the Rocky Boy Reservation in Montana, where it's just freezing cold.
Oh my gosh!
And you go down the street, and there'd be a electric wire going out into a tree, and you kind of go, what is that for? Well, they pull it down to plug into the car, and I don't know. It was very fascinating. I only did it for about 5 years because then the federal funds that they used to put in the accounting system dried up.
Yeah.
But it was just a great experience, even though my wife wasn't all that excited about it because we had young kids and I was on the road a lot.
Yeah, that can be a drain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you had 5 different kind of
careers
so I did that. Inside that. Right?
I did that. Then I started doing restaurants here in Spokane, and I did mainly profitability systems.
Well, that's a tough industry to make. The margins are tight, Tom.
What's difficult is a lot of people, they come into some money and they go, hey, I could run a business. I love to cook. I think I'll open a restaurant. The accounting part of it isn't theirs. And so what we would do that was really fun is we would put in a manager incentive program. So we go to the manager and say, look, you're making X. We'll give you 5% of everything you earn over where we are today. Well, a lot of times those managers would just take off. I mean, they'd go from it being something where they showed up to, hey, this is mine, and they'd run hard. And then the second thing we put in is a lot of restaurants really have, weren't great financially. Well, we would we'd get one of those servers to come in every Monday and do a little financial statement. They take all the revenues, they do a quick little inventory, they take the expenses, and we get a financial statement that showed here's the income, here's the expenses, and they could now, because in the past, they get a statement 6 weeks after the end of the month, and by then it was all done, and they had no idea what their food costs were.
It's not actually helpful to running the business.
Right.
Yeah.
So this way, they had a financial every Monday, and they could sit down and go, wait a minute, we had good revenues, but look at our food costs. Well, what do we do? Well, remember, on Tuesday we had this, and Wednesday we had that.
Yeah.
And then the other part that made sense of it is we moved them to, rather than months, to 4 or 5 weeks, so that what we did weekly would tie into the actual monthly. And the combination of the two were really profitable for restaurants. I mean, having one really knowing what they're doing, and two, and having somebody that's there that really cares, all of a sudden you got a pretty profitable.
Did you ever know a guy named Anson Avery?
Oh, yeah.
So Anson was my accountant right before he died. And I got referred to him, and I'm like, this guy, I don't know, he's a character, man. This guy was a character.
He was a character.
I mean, a character. And I'm like, I don't know about this. He was late 70s, easy, early 80s. But he was so great at understanding a business and loved to figure it out. And I've had accountants through the years, right, that really didn't really care to learn how the business worked and or give advice on how you could make this business more profitable or successful or all of those things. And that part of it I really appreciate about him, and it sounds like that's what you kind of did, is you would dive inside of that and say, how does this really work and is it, because the last thing I want to do is, do this and not have it work,
Yeah.
for my employees, for their families, for my family. And he was one of the first people that really taught me a lot about understanding how important that was. And,
Right.
you should be proud that you're paying taxes. That's a good thing. That's you've done a good thing there. So I don't know if you kind of come from the same.
Yeah, that's
school,
me. I mean, and frankly, I was never a great accountant. I was much better on kind of the strategy and how do you make a buck here? And, right. And that was fun. And then I went from that to actually I became managing partner, but I had a great experience. My wife is good friends with Christy Blake, who's Bill Gates' sister.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
And so she spent some time over in Hood Canal at their compound.
Wow.
And they're walking around, and there's this big room, and it's all chalkboards and so on. And Christy goes, "Oh yeah, Bill comes over here." This is when, of course, he's still running Microsoft. Bill comes over here once a month, maybe once every 6 weeks, and he takes a week, and he brings good food, some books, and he just spends time really thinking about, okay, where am I? Where do I want to go? Takes the time to do this.
Interesting.
And I can so remember thinking, I'm way too busy for that.
Yeah.
No, I could never do that. And then a little while after, I ran into Fritz Wolf here in town.
Yes.
He basically says the same thing. He says, yeah, I get my family together. We have planning retreats. We really take the time. And after that, I'm going.
Well, there's two.
Yeah, I'm
pretty
going,
successful
of the
guys
most successful people I've ever
you've
met.
ever met. Yeah, me too.
And so I started doing that. I started going for about 3 times a year. I'd take 5 days, and I'd go off and go by myself, have some good food, some books. But I just spend the days going, okay, what's really working in my life, and then what isn't, and the same thing, what's working at work, what isn't. And luckily, all the good stuff was always much bigger than the bad. But then I'd go, okay, well, if life was just perfect in 5 years, what would it look like? Mm-hmm. And I'd spell that out.
You envisioned it.
Yeah, envisioned it. And I'd go back and tell people, and they go, you're crazy thinking all that. But usually it came together, because if you go, hey, I'm going to be here in 5 years, then every decision you'd come to, you'd go, well, I'm going to be there. I better do this. I better not do that.
This is unbelievable. So, okay, I'm in a CEO group.
Yeah.
With Kevin Parker.
Oh.
Kevin's a really great,
amazing guy.
Yeah, he's a CEO.
Amazing.
Runs Dutch Bros here. He's been on this podcast. Amazing guy.
Yeah.
And he kind of talked me into being in this group, and some amazing people.
Yeah.
Most of them probably, that we meet once a month and kind of go through some of the stuff that he's sort of has learned through his experiences both at Harvard, really, and Gonzaga, that he's gone through and teaches us some stuff. And we're going through a book right now which I highly recommend, called Deep Work. You've ever read this book?
No.
Phenomenal. And it's really about the distractions that we all face, and that if you're going to do great things, you've got to have the ability to focus and have time to do deep work. And we just finished a chapter about Bill Gates going off and
really
doing this exact thing. And now that you're mentioning it, and I have thought often about, I really think I want to go do that, but the same thing that you just said, I'm too busy, but that sort of going off and I thought of it before, but after reading this, and he's not the only one that kind of did this sort of in different ways. Some people would take a week, some people would do it kind of more regularly. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of skin that cat that works for you. But if you could go take a week, and I thought what I really need to do is take things that I would read, and maybe have people suggest some things to me that that are along the way of doing that, beyond just the planning of what I want to do. But at this kind of part of the game that I'm at 57, I'm sort of thinking like, where's the off ramp, if there ever is one for me, and what's the best, smartest way to do that? And so it's super interesting that you just brought that up, because I'm literally yesterday we were discussing this in that meeting, and I think the other part of what you say is you walk through the things that you did while you're on that, and I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but I've created this system called Circle Plus Minus, which is something I've used with clients and something I've used with friends, and kind of sort of group organizational tool that I've done with all the CEOs through Kevin's group recently. And it essentially does that. It looks at, all the things, and I created this in 2008 during the crash when I bought my partner out.
Yeah.
And it was only 4 of us, including me, having to get a bunch of work done over a year. And I'm like, if I don't get this figured out quick, we're going to be out of business in 6 months. I could just feel it. And so I put everybody in a room and got a whiteboard and said, what's everybody doing?
What are the elephants
What's everybody
here?
doing?
Yeah.
What do I do? What
Yeah.
do you do? What do you
Yeah.
do? And I really went at it intentionally. I'm curious to think what your feedback of this is. I want to work at a place I like to work every day. I want
Right.
to work at a great place, which I get to do. And I did some of the same things that you talked about. Look, if I'm going to do this, let's envision this in a way that really works, because if it doesn't work and you're miserable, why are you doing anything? So we looked at all the things that we do, wrote them all down. I had about 15 things that I did, kind of looked at them. And I circled the things that I loved. Like, which are
the ones you're good at.
What I'm good at and what I love, my passion. That's what I love.
Well, usually they're the same.
Often, but not always. And then I put a plus next to what I don't mind doing. I don't mind doing the laundry in my house. Plus next to that, I don't mind doing these things. But if somebody else did it and I never did it again, I'd be perfectly happy. And then a minus next to the stuff that I don't like, I lose energy from, or I've conned myself into thinking I can do, but someone else could do way better. And you look at those lists, and we instantly as a group realized, oh, your circle, your plus is my minus.
Right.
And vice versa. Why don't I take that? So it instantly got us more productive quickly. And it made me look a lot into, what if you just did the things you loved? What would that be like? And can you do that? And I've spent the last maybe 15, 20 years sort of working on this model, sharing it with, facilitating it with, I would say, maybe hundreds of people now, groups, and the number one thing that comes out of that at the end of after you sort of look at all of that, I have everybody go through an exercise of what's missing you don't have. I feel like the hardest thing you could ever ask anybody is, what do you want? What do you want, Tom?
Yeah.
It's tough, right? But you can usually ask somebody what they don't have. What's missing that you wish you had? And then the last step is we put our order in with the cosmic waitress, and we ask if I could have these things, like you said, if I could have anything I wanted in 5 years, what would it look like? And just kind of be greedy, put this order in. And that's been the process of this circle plus minus thing. Well, miraculous things have happened simply from the goal, from putting it down and speaking it.
Right.
And the couple things that I've discovered in the process of doing that is, one, you really do, I believe strongly that a leader, somebody at the top of the organization, the less you do and the more circles you have, the more profitable, successful the organization is.
Yeah.
And I've kind of got a lot of stuff to back that up. One was Don Hewitt, who ran 60 Minutes. This is the guy that did the Nixon-Kennedy debate, produced that. And he started 60 Minutes. And there was a great documentary on his life right before he passed away. And everybody at 60 Minutes hated him because he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't like that guy. He doesn't do anything. He comes in, he looks at all the stories, he gives critiques. They come back on Friday, he does it again, and he writes, the 10 most important seconds every week in America. Will Ukraine make it or not? Find out Sunday on 60 Minutes. He has a sense for what America. And I'm like, I'm Don Hewitt, I get that, but he really did 3 things extremely well, and that's all he did.
Yeah.
And all the way to the bank, like number 1, longer than any show in history in the top 10, news or not. And so I've always kind of thought about that. Like, if I could just do those things, and the more I kind of do it with my team as often as I can, and we go through that exercise. But when people put in their cosmic order for what they want, I've never had money be number 1. No one's ever said, I need more money.
No.
It's usually, I need more time, or I need a heater at my desk or a window in my office or something like that. So is that similar to what you kind of
Oh yeah.
did
Oh yeah. Oh.
or do still maybe?
Yeah, I do still. But with the Moss Adams office, what we did that was kind of interesting is we used to have the partners go away on a little retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Once we started doing more of a, hey, what's really working, what isn't,
Yeah.
We'd come back from these retreats and we'd have all these 5-year big plans, and the partners would walk in, and right away the staff and the administrative staff would go, "What have you guys been smoking? That's crazy," And it kind of,
Right.
So we started taking the partners, the senior managers, but then we took a representative group of the brand new staff, the administrative staff, and it worked so well because then when we got back, they were able to communicate.
Yes.
This is
they were bought in.
They were bought in. This is why we're doing this, and so getting the buy-in made a huge difference.
Yeah.
And out of that came really, as you've talked about, how important it is to really understand what you're good at, and usually what you're good at is what you like doing.
Yep.
And what you're not good at, that maybe, even though it's a lot of times it's an ego thing, hey, I got to control this, but somebody else is going to do it so much better than you.
Yes.
And give it away. My little example of that I love is Rick Betts, who started Hoop Fest here in town.
Yeah.
I remember probably 25 years ago him going, "Hey, Tom, I'm going to give these clients away." Well, nobody gives clients away. Well, yeah. But Rick was focused on the telephone industry, and he just said, I'm not going to have 400 tax clients or something. I'm going to have 7 or 8 great telephone companies that I can really make a difference in. And he had the time, as you kind of talked about, the focus and the time.
Yeah.
And I'd look at him and go, what a life. He's really a pro at it. He makes a huge difference. Doesn't have to put in a gazillion hours.
Right.
He's
got balance.
This all makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then I have other partners that just, they just take everything in and work gazillion hours and not do as well.
Chase their tail.
So to really focus on, what you're good at and go do it makes so much sense, as you've talked about.
That's good. Yeah. So what made you transition out? Like you just knew, when did you know, okay, I've done it. This is good.
Oh, well, so then the last part of my career was doing, 2 last parts was being the managing partner, but then I also went on the firm's executive committee, and then I ran even though I didn't do any manufacturers, I ran our manufacturing group, which is the biggest group. And I think largely because of the planning process. I'd have to go to all 27 offices and up and down the West and sit down with them. And
27 offices.
Yeah. And do their plan, help them with, okay, what are we doing good at? What aren't we? What are we going to accomplish this next year?
Wow.
What's perfection look like in 5 years?
Wow.
So, and then I finally ended up doing auto dealers. But then I transitioned out kind of early. I was 58, I guess.
Okay.
But partially because when I started, that's when accountants were supposed to retire. It was 58. And at least
really?
In the big 8, they made you retire at
Why
58.
is that? What was that?
I think
number?
they just wanted to get old guys out and new blood in. So I was kind of in my mind 58.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I'm 57. I feel like I'm just starting here.
I know.
What was that all about?
I know.
Weird.
Yeah.
Ratios.
Yeah.
So you're done early at 58.
Yeah.
Is that when you started? I mean, I know you through this incredible thing that you have started or part of started or whatever. A lot of things that you've been a part of. YMCA, is that right? You were part of that, or no? United Way.
United Way, yeah.
Big part of United Way. Right. You and the Bite2Go program at the core. This incredible feeding kids on the weekend, which we're going to dive a bunch into.
Right.
But what is that? What made that happen? You kind of looked around and said,
I did my same planning process. I said, okay, in 5 years we'll be perfect. And I thought, I don't want to be on a bunch of boards, kind of listen to reports. What I'd like to do is I'd like to do something where I keep my business contacts, still in a sense connect with them.
Yep.
2, do something that in the community that I'd enjoy. 3, probably something with kids. And it took me 3 years to find something, but as it turns out, I was chair of United Way, and I went to Amarillo to look at a poverty program that didn't really work for Spokane.
What took you there?
There was a group that came to Spokane that was giving a seminar on a kind of a program where they would adopted families.
Oh, wow.
And so went and looked at it, and it just didn't seem like it made any sense for us. And so they were kind of stuck with me for 3 days. So they started farming me out, and they farmed me out to this guy who's still our mentor. I talked to him for an hour today, who is feeding 10,000 kids in Amarillo, Texas. And
amazing.
And he's really good at buying. You know, he's been a huge part of our buying process.
What's his name again?
Dyron Howell, Snack Back for Kids. And the other thing he's really good at is he's working with a group in Minneapolis today. You know, he's working with a bunch of communities in Texas, but all over. You know, he's really just been a great mentor. He's a really smart dude and just a great guy.
So he's the one who put the bug in your ear. You were really there for United Way.
Right.
But you meet this guy.
Right.
What happens to you in your brain, which is
I'm
always thinking?
Going, well, I wonder, you know, he's obviously having a lot of fun, and I'm going, I wonder if we need that. So the day I get home, there's a United Way function, and I ran into Shelley Redinger, who's the superintendent of schools, and I go, do we have a backpack program? I said, no, we don't, you know, it's something we need. And so I kind of started digging in, and...
what did you find out in terms of the number? And what we're talking about here is there are a lot of kids in every community in America, really, who get food through free and reduced lunch programs during school.
Right.
But they go home on the weekend, they don't have that food.
Right.
Is that really the summing up of this?
Yes. Yeah, because... you know, what's clear is these kids, if they're worried about eating, not going to eat over the weekend, Friday they're not thinking about school. Certainly they're thinking about, how am I going to eat? Work, you know, could I go stay with a friend? What do I do to kind of survive the weekend? And then two, on Monday they're not ready to learn because they come back and they're hungry. You know, they've had a miserable weekend, and so it's a kind of a, you know, it's not only feeding kids, but it's an education issue, because if they're hungry, exactly right, they're not only a problem for themselves not learning, but they're a problem for the classroom because they're acting up. And what's interesting is the teachers know immediately. I mean, you go, well, how? Because the teachers identify these kids, and particularly the little kids, you know, the up to third, fourth grade, they're on a 3-day holiday where your kids and my kids were excited. They're in tears, you know, with the teacher because they know they're not going to eat. And it's...
Was that surprising to you?
Oh.
When you found that out?
Oh, I mean, I think about all the times I drove down Grand, you know, and parked my car downtown in the covered parking. And if you would ask me, could there be hungry kids in Spokane, I would have gone, absolutely not.
Well, sure. I mean, you're going from the South Hill down through Manitou Park.
Yeah.
I mean, life's great. We're living in, in...
Totally oblivious, you know,
and
and you just don't realize it.
You didn't realize. So when you found out from Shelley, how bad were the numbers then?
Well, so we really.
What was the need?
The way we estimate the need is we look at a school and look at how many kids are on free and reduced meals, and my buddy in Amarillo again came. This kind of a benchmark that we use. We look at a school and go, hey, if 20% of the kids on free and reduced meals are probably how many kids need to be fed. Mm-hmm. So if you have 500 kids in the class, 80% free and reduced, so 400, 20% of that, 80 kids we're gonna feed, and it usually turns out to be pretty accurate.
Wow, those are your ratios.
Right.
So in Spokane, then you're looking at this problem.
Right.
And it's beyond United Way now.
Yeah, not United Way at all.
And, what'd you do?
Well, the other thing that was of interest is my buddy in Amarillo was totally against food banks. He said, Tom, now if you start this, don't go to a food bank.
Why?
And he says because they want to, a lot of times they want to use food off the shelves and they're
not going to give the appropriate food to a kid.
They're not going to give kid-friendly food.
Yeah.
Well, I get back.
Here's a ration, kid.
I get back to Spokane and everyone says, "Oh, second harvest," you know, and I'm going, second harvest. But the other thing that happened is some people right away introduced me to this fabulous couple, Brenna and Chris Sloan, who helped their church adopt a school, and then 4 other churches.
So this was going on unbeknownst to you,
right?
The way that he was doing it in Amarillo, there were seeds here of this happening.
Yeah, and they are just this fabulous couple, and they got that going, and so we a bunch of people said, hey, you got to talk to the Sloans, and so we connected, and kind of away we went.
When was this, roughly?
It was 11 years ago.
Wow.
About right in the summer.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you met these guys,
yeah,
and you're not going to go get any help from Second Harvest, the evil food.
Yeah, well, that was the thought. But then, I mean, everyone was so high on Second Harvest, and I go meet Second Harvest, and it is just such a fabulous organization. I mean, Jason Clark he sets a great tone, and what I love is they're not, a lot of food banks, and of course Second Harvest is not a place where you go get food. It's a food bank distributor.
It's distributor food, correct.
Right. And I think my buddy in Amarillo was more working with the places you get food, but
these pantries or people
right,
were
but they've been so open, and any idea that let's think about that. I mean, so it's just a wonderful organization. There's been a fabulous partner, and it's where he Snack Bar for Kids. He's had to set up his own facility, do all his own buying, everything. Here, this is Second Harvest is just taking that part, and they run hard with it.
Incredible. So they really take care of finding the food, distributing it, but it takes the community still to be a part of this. Right?
Oh yeah, because we're now packing 11,000 packages of food a week.
11,000.
11,000.
I remember when we started telling this story for Second Harvest 3 or 4 years ago. It was 6.
Yeah.
It has grown fast.
It's grown fast.
And the need is it's still growing.
Oh yeah. And using our benchmark, of 20% at their free and reduced, we're 11,000 is about what we should be at for the Spokane area, Spokane Valley, so on. But if you look at the whole Second Harvest service area, which goes as far as Yakima, that's about 25,000 kids.
Wow.
And so there's another 14,000 out there that we should be feeding, and that's kind of the current initiative we're working hard on is how do we get to those? Because we tried just going out and going to the community and going to church and say, hey, you want to start this? One, there's no trust. I mean, they don't know you. 2, you don't know who to go talk to.
You're those dudes from Spokane.
What's
your angle?
They literally say that. Say, now why are you here? Must be something in it for you.
Yeah.
And so that's a challenge, but we're making good progress.
So Bite2Go is formed by. You decide I'm going to form this organization with these partners, or how does it work?
Right. So what I love the most about Bite2Go is Amarillo again. His organization is much more a general organization where they're fundraising and doing golf tournaments.
And they do the whole thing soup to nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What I love about what we're doing here is we partner with a business or church in Second Harvest to feed these kids. And so here, rather than us starting a new entity and a new building and all that, we partner. And so we're not out doing it, fundraising and drawing money out of the community. This business or church will adopt the school. They will listen to they'll sign up the kids that the teachers say need to be fed. They fund it at elementary school, $180 a year or $15 a month, and then they deliver the food each week. They go down to Second Harvest today, Wednesday, pick it up and deliver it, and then the real key is they do more. They listen to the school and what the school needs that they can do, they do, and so they really wrap their arms around the school and go, hey, this is my school, our school. We're gonna feed the kids that are hungry. We're gonna deliver the food, but then we're gonna do so much more, and it's a wonderful thing because so many businesses and churches don't want to just write a check. They want to be involved.
Yeah.
And so this gives them the chance to do that.
Yeah.
And so our little group at the core, our job is to find a business or church, make it really easy for them to adopt a school, but then really coach them on how to do more.
So what else do they? What have you found that they're doing? That's
So
more
they do so many
examples of
things. A lot of them will do simple things like when it's cold and the teachers say, "Hey, we got a bunch of kids showing up without hats and gloves." So put a big box at the front desk, hats and gloves for Cooper. People, bring them in.
Bring them
Old
into the
ones,
office,
new
and
ones,
they
whatever.
take them along with the food.
We have people doing reading buddies. We have people doing mentoring.
Wow. Wow. Did you ever imagine that?
No. And like Moss Adams, one of the things they did that I loved is they would get all the Bite2Go kids up into the building and take a tour. And, so they're up seeing accountants, and you're kind of going, well, how exciting is that? and yet a lot of them have never been on an 18th floor building, being able to look out the windows. Wow.
Right.
And two, if you just have, and they'd go around to kind of accountant to accountant and listen to what they're doing. And so if 20 of the 25 say, yeah, this is really boring, but 5 of them go, hey, I
might want to do that.
I can see myself in this place, that's all good.
That's great.
So they do that. They do,
Cool.
Another thing they did is they put together a little scholarship for somebody that graduated from their elementary school, now graduating from high school and going to college, $1,000 scholarship, so not a 10. But the requirement is that if you get this scholarship, you have to go back to the elementary school and tell them why you're going to college.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that something?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that.
So people are just creative with what they do. They just have.
I did not know that.
NAI Black does. They put together big Thanksgiving meals for all their kids. And a lot of them put together Christmas presents, and people just have fun with it.
Yeah, I know we're gonna film next week at Dealer's Auto Auction.
Oh.
And tell me about that family now.
Yeah.
Those guys, Sunset Elementary. I know we're gonna go film.
They started out feeding like 100 kids. They're up way over 300 kids they're serving.
Isn't that amazing?
And they have a truck. They've painted.
They painted their own truck.
Bite2Go, and they just have a lot of fun with it. And one of our team members, Catherine Klingel, died of cancer maybe 18 months ago. And it was so influential and made such a huge difference to us that we started an annual award, Catherine Klingel Award.
Oh, wow.
And they received the second annual award and came and presented and had a bunch of people come and talk about why they do it and what it means. So, and what I love about DAA is they contribute some, but a lot of it just comes from their employees. So many employees have said, yeah, I'll take a kid for $15 a month,
Right. So that's how one of the things we talked about today in our meeting is that's one way to do this beyond, I don't know, what if I don't have a business or we're not going to adopt it or my church isn't doing that. Any individual can adopt a kid.
Right. Go to bite2go.org. And pick the school they want to fund, and put in their debit card or credit card, whatever, and just $15 a month.
$15 a month, and you're helping to bring that kid food for the weekend. Amazing.
Yeah, right here in Spokane.
Yeah. Well, I've had a chance to interview a few people about this, and I'm going to talk to Bob McConkey from DAA next.
What a fabulous
Tuesday,
guy! I got to tell you my Bob story too.
Okay, we'll go back to the. But anyway, we're going to talk to him because one of his employees, has gone through a bunch of stuff that Food Bank's helped a ton through her life, and now she's giving back and delivering Bite2Go at Sunset next. We're going to follow her, so she's somebody that got that job because she had been homeless and gone through a bunch of stuff, and they've just been incredibly supportive of that. But what I hear when we talk to them, or I talk to somebody, we interviewed some people that were at McKinstry, and they've adopted us. Just happened to be there when we were sorting one day. He was there sorting food, and then put it in his car and took it to the school. And they get way more out of this almost than the kids do. I think they were really surprised, and you'd think that's a lot of work, but I mean that's something that's just missing in people's lives, right? Especially this volunteerism piece that I think, especially through COVID, has gotten kind of lost.
Right. We
need it more than ever, and this is a great way to do that.
You are so right. When we started, we thought, okay, there shouldn't be hungry kids, and make help with their education. But what I never thought about is it's a wonderful thing for the business or church. Because a lot of times you'll talk to a business and what do you do? And they'll go, well, we make this, do this, and then they'll go, and we got this school, and let me tell you about all the cool things we're doing.
It's
with
a culture builder for that
for
that school
organization. It changes the tone of the organization.
Yeah. So one of the projects we're working on right now for you all with Second Harvest is to try to get the message out to rural communities, right? Smaller communities that aren't. I mean, Spokane is all in. Like you said, we're getting everybody fed for the weekend, but smaller communities are not. And one of the just watching you sort of process this, you're like, you'd think the same model would work there, but there aren't always businesses anymore in small towns that kind of can flagship this.
Right. In
some communities there are. We went up to Sandpoint, and they're doing an incredible job up there with, Lighthouse Food and, some community leaders that have jumped in to kind of make it happen. And so it can work that way. But you go to a place like Reardon, there isn't. But there are churches there, super involved. 4 churches on each corner that have all gotten together, and they make it happen. They've adopted their own school, and they feed it, and in some cases the food is they drive up here. They get a volunteer from the church. He'll drive from Reardon, show up on, like you said, Wednesday in the back of Second Harvest. They load them up, with all the kits. And the kids and teachers hand them out. And we filmed that piece of it too. So I've kind of gotten to see every angle of this as we've stood in schools. That's happened. Yeah. And then we went to George Washington. I mean, that was an amazing experience for me. Watching this entire community of Latino kids. And I think every kid there was on free and reduced lunch. Now, that's rare, not unheard of, not uncommon. It happens in the city of Spokane, but not like it does at George, right? And got to talk to an amazing guy there who I hope to have on my podcast someday. Just talking about, he is the counselor there. And how the impact that it has had on the kids there for the weekends. And I'm telling you that is, in that case, Second Harvest actually delivers it. They'll drive the food all the way to George.
With volunteer drivers.
Volunteer drivers take the food all the way there, drop it off, I think every week. Every month or every week.
It's probably that location. Is probably they try to do it every month.
But it's also across the road where there really isn't. I mean, this is a pretty much 100% migrant population. Right. Across the highway down the road 20 miles is Quincy. Well, Quincy's got Microsoft as a partner because they've got a big office there.
Savvy, a bunch of
wind
big
farms and stuff that they're. They've got organizations there. The Grant County PUD is a part of it. So they found a way to partner with even partnering towns. And they support it a lot. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And I just think it's, if every kid could get fed, like you said, 25,000 now is the need. Just in Eastern Washington, North Idaho. And you've got about 11 maybe with some of these groups. You do have some that are in these smaller areas. But not a ton.
Not a ton. No. No, it's probably 90% Spokane Valley, so on.
So that's your next.
That's our goal.
Your dream board when you put that up. That's what you were.
That's right.
You were wanting to have happen to see if that goes. Well, if anybody wants to, all they have to do is go to Bite2Go.org.
Bite2Go.org.
And you can sign up and get information if you want. You're really looking for leaders, aren't you?
Yeah. Really, what we've realized is in each of those towns is a community organizer, a leader, somebody who really knows the town, has a heart for kids, knows how to make this happen. How to fundraise, where to organize it. One of the things we encourage a small community to do, or these communities, is even though we're happy to give them the bags of food, we'd rather they pack them. Just because then it's a community event. Then there's a lot of buzz about it. Hey, let's go down and pack food today.
It builds community. That's exactly what's happened with all those organizations, those businesses. They're getting more out of the packing of it and the delivering it than they are anything else. But Second Harvest provides the food, so that's not the piece that they need to worry about.
And Second Harvest does it. With Dyron, but Second Harvest, Julie down there does a fabulous job of buying. They buy by the truckload, and only by the truckload they get great pricing. There's no overhead put in. It's just a $5 package of food that if you went to the grocery store, it'd probably cost you $7 or $8 or $9.
Well, the episode that we're going to do at George, we sat with 3 Latino kids. They're just adorable, and we're like, "What's in your bag?" And they just opened the bags up and showed us what they had. And you know, when I was a kid, I wouldn't have got that kind of cool food. I mean, it was like, you know, they loved everything in the bag. And I think that's been something that
we've really focused on.
Here.
Yeah, we've recognized that you know, we started out giving them a thing of corn, no name. You know, it's important that these kids have something they can pull out and be proud of. You know, it's Kellogg's or General
Not only
Foods.
Be proud of, but make themselves.
Right. Oh yeah, it's all shelf stable. A first grader can easily get into this and eat it all. And it's a challenge we always have is we want to make sure it's healthy, nutritious food, but also something the kids will eat.
Yeah.
So there's a balance there.
It doesn't do any good if they're not going to have anything.
Right.
Yeah. I could even eat this.
Yeah, you'd love it.
I could even prepare it on my own. Well, I think that's I don't know. I just think what you're doing is an amazing thing. What you've done more than just Bite2Go though. You've been a part of a lot of different organizations after you've retired, right? Why do that? And any other ones that you're kind of proud of that you've been a part of?
Well, since I retired, certainly I was board chair and campaign chair for United Way. Enjoyed doing that. You know, great organization. I was on the Catholic Bishops Finance Council for a number of years, which is interesting work, and cemetery board, Catholic cemetery, and I enjoyed all those. But what I love about this Bite2Go is this is really daily, hands-on, making phone calls. You know, sometimes you make those kind of sales calls, and you're kind of, I really want to do this, and you go, nah, it's for the kids, let's go,
Yeah.
And I started to tell you about Bob McConkey.
Oh yeah, Bob.
Yeah, he was so funny. I kind of knew Bob in the past, and I knew him just well enough to know he's a great guy.
So he's the
excuse me.
Yeah,
Bob McConkey owns DAA.
Yeah,
Dealers Auto Auction. And Dealers Auto Auction,
successful.
And now they got 400 employees, I think, out in the West Plains.
Airway Heights, yeah.
And then they're in California, a couple spots, and
wow.
they're really going. Bob's just a great guy. Anyway, I go in and I sit down, and he's nice enough to have me in, and I start giving my kind of Bite2Go and talk about how it works, and I'm going along, and all of a sudden Bob goes, oh, and I'm kind of going, oh my God, this isn't good,
Good.
And I look up. And so Bob, he goes, Tom, this is so what we've been looking for. He says, this is,
That's not what you thought he was going to say.
I thought he was going to throw me out. He said, we just don't want to just write checks. We want our organization to really own something and be hands-on and really make a difference. And
wow.
He says, this is perfect. And,
wow.
And that's exactly how they've treated it. I mean, they've just,
He just knew at a blink.
He knew at a blink.
That was the right thing to do. Wow, that's incredible.
And that's and kind of what, as I think of churches and businesses both, it's, a lot of times it's not the size or the profitability or it's really, in so many cases, it's the heart of somebody in there who gets it. There shouldn't be hungry kids. 2, they need a workforce that's educated. You gotta, they can't learn if you're hungry. And 3, it's going to be a great thing for their business or church.
It is.
It's something they can, Life Center's another one that's just, we actually got our first award. They have been so fabulous. They are doing reading, but
that's a big church.
Big church. They have 4 schools. One little story on them. They were feeding, their congregants were feeding 300 kids. Last year, they came to their had us come in. Actually, Brenda Sloan went in and did a presentation at all their services in the fall. And their goal was they really wanted to get to 400 kids that they'd be supporting. So
their church.
Their church.
Wow, that's a big goal.
So they do the presentation. They signed up 585 kids. What a wonderful church, and they do things though, like we haul all the food out, to the cases of food out to their church, and as everyone walks out the door, everyone packs a bag.
Oh, they do it so as they leave church.
Yeah. And they have lots of people doing reading buddies, and they do what they call Love Week, which is August 18th, where they go out in the community and do projects. And one of the projects they're going to do is they're going to come and build probably 20,000 sacks of food for us.
Wow.
And so there's about half of our businesses. Half of our adoptive organizations are churches and half are businesses. And there's lots of ones like Life Center, but they're the biggest and kind of set a great
Well,
tone.
and what I've been impressed with as we've filmed the process is how incredibly organized it is from everybody.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't take a lot of time.
No.
Right? I mean,
No.
these bags don't take that long to pack.
No.
And they don't take that long to deliver. I mean, it's really not.
Right. Somebody delivers in an hour usually.
Right.
Except I got to say a lot of schools they deliver to the door and then the counselor has to take it to each class, take 3 bags to this classroom and 6 to this classroom. And then the teachers slide them in their backpacks on Friday in most schools.
Right.
So they're not embarrassed about taking it home. But some of our adoptive organizations have recognized that's a lot. These counselors are buried with kids that are in need.
So busy.
And so a lot of the schools, the business or church will have 3 or 4 people go, and they will not just take it to the door; they'll take it to each classroom.
Yeah, and we're talking elementary all through high school as well.
Right.
We filmed at LC, and they have a group of students who deliver it.
Well, yeah, and the middle and high
cool.
school.
That's really cool.
The middle and high school program is really different in that the kids go online. We give them a QR code. They pick a teacher that they put in only a student number. They pick a teacher that they're interested in picking up the food from on Friday, so they're not embarrassed about taking it home.
Right.
And then they pick the items they want. And then the leadership class or the DECA class or some kind of, there's even been some special needs classes, they run this like a business. They pack the food, they deliver it to those classrooms, and then they do an inventory. And if they screw it up, it gets screwed up. I mean, they run it like a business. And what's so cool is that these kids, one, the kids in the high school, middle school get fed, but 2, this group of kids now really has empathy for the kids, the fact that there's kids in their school that are hungry and they're doing something about it.
Right.
And we have a great little video up on our website that talks about that, about just what it means to those kids to really be doing that.
Yeah.
The other thing has been that I never expected, but the teachers where these kids say, "Hey, I want to pick my bag up from Mr. Smith." Well, we hear from so many of those teachers who say, one, I was thrilled they picked me, but 2, now this kid that's in need every Friday comes in, closes the door, I get the food out of the drawer, he puts it in his backpack so nobody knows he has it. But 2, I get to connect with this kid that's in trouble.
Never would have had that time.
And we don't always talk. Sometimes they just give them the bag and they're gone. But a lot of times, and so it's really
mentoring opportunities.
Mentoring, really touching.
As we went through COVID, that this whole idea of sort of shame around asking for food,
right?
I think has changed a little. Maybe I'm wrong, but we were doing work for Second Harvest before that, and there was a real emphasis on our end of, even sort of messaging around food insecurity is important, and it's bigger than people realize, and it is not shameful to ask for food to pay to feed yourself or your family, and I think that's shifting a little. I think people are understanding. Maybe it's just the economic climate. Maybe it's through COVID, we all kind of got faced with things not being the same. But I'm sensing at least a lot of the elementary kids, they're all like want it. They fight over it. They're like, I want one of those. How come I don't get one? It's more the other way. It's more kids who wish they got it than they didn't.
Right.
But yeah, the discretion's really important.
Oh, it is.
But I think people also are understanding that this is just the world we live in now. It's much a bigger demand than I think anybody realizes.
Oh, we hear often.
Much bigger need.
I heard a story just recently of a gal who said, I was, well known in my school as a cheerleader, so hungry in the weekends, but I would try to go to the food bank if I could get away from my friends. I didn't want anyone to know that I was hungry. Yeah. And a lot of times I couldn't get away, and I'd just starve for the weekend. And so, food insecurity is a tough thing, and I heard from a guy the other day who talked about, I lost my, we've just started a summer program, because one of the questions we always get is, what are these kids, what do they get fed in the summer?
That's exactly right.
And we've always had to say, we don't know.
Look, can we tackle one thing first? Yeah.
Well, and so we've started a summer program where where a family can drive up to 2 spots. We're only starting 2. We're going to feed 1,500 kids every week.
Wow.
And the summer program will just a parent will be able to drive up, say, hey, I need 4 bags for my 4 kids, get in the bags. Rick Clark, with Feeding
Rick.
Spokane,
Yes.
and I didn't say that right. It's not Feeding Spokane. It's
it's the backpack program. He's
Anyway, he's raised the money, which is fabulous. He's still in the process, and he's a little more, but he's raising $90,000, and we have a couple of churches that are going to run with it. But what made me think of it, Frank, is one of the things that we've been coached on that, and actually getting my buddy in Amarillo, he says, now Tom, you're gonna have cars that pull up that are really nice cars, and they're gonna say, I need 4 bags.
That's right.
And your volunteers are gonna go, why? I mean, that nice car.
Yeah.
And yet you just don't you don't know about a family. They can be doing really well one day, and a month later they're out of work and they're hungry, and so
don't judge.
It's changed. Oh, don't judge.
Oh, well, we have filmed Second Harvest in their mobile markets, which are incredible.
Yeah.
Right, and essentially, especially in small towns, we've gone to Zilla, we've filmed in a lot of different locations. The first time we got there, I'm like, well, what exactly is this? Right. And we're going to hand out food to cars who basically drive through a parking lot, and we give them a bag of food, right? I mean, mile-long lines.
Yeah.
In these towns, people sitting in their car for hours waiting to get food because they need it. And you're right, every kind of car you could imagine is going through there. And I was blown away. We actually filmed. I'm like, well, let's just put the camera up on the car and drive past the line to see how many people, and we've droned it from above. It's sobering to see how long that shot lasts.
Right.
Car after car after car. And I remember the first time we did it, we went to them and we finally got to the end, and everybody in the car was silent. It's just like, wow. Did not realize the need is, and those are families waiting in line to get food for their family to eat. I mean, it's in America where we grew up, I just didn't think that would be the case. But it's real, and it is
real.
And people can do something about it.
The other thing
people are doing something. You're doing something about it.
That because I end up going to a lot of these schools, I end up going to some of these poorer neighborhoods, and it's I think so many of us never see that. You never get in some of those neighborhoods, and there's all kinds of families, but there's so many families that I think. You hear people say, well, the problem is they're just bad parents or they're drugs, and yet what I've learned is there's so many families who are actually very responsible, and so they pay their rent.
That's right.
They pay their utility bill.
They have a full-time job.
They pay the things they have to pay first, and kind of what's left is for food.
That's right.
And a lot of times, one week they're in good shape, and next week they're not. And
you got to choose sometimes between, am I going to get gas in the car or am I going to eat?
And it's complete, and somewhat of that's obviously in the parents' hands. It's completely out of the kids' hands. Yeah. And so those kids, they need to be fed regardless of what the parents are doing or not doing.
So where's this summer program? Where can you get those
up? We're kind of working on that now, but it looks like we're going to have one in West Central area and one in Hilliard. The one in Hilliard's going to be in Shaw.
Yep.
And what's kind of interesting is I met with them yesterday. It's a plant called Awaken Church that's going to do the work. And it was, you ought to look at their little video. This church just has a huge heart. They grew up in Hilliard. They talk about how important Hilliard is to them, and how needy it is, and how they're thrilled to make a difference.
So if I don't work in an organization that sponsors a school,
right?
If I'm not part of a church that does that, I can give $15 a month or whatever. I can give $15 to help a kid, right?
Right.
Can I still volunteer? Can I help?
Oh yeah.
How's that get done?
So if you go to Bite2Go, that's where you can sign up to sponsor a kid or 2 kids, whatever.
Yep.
You can also go there and sign up to do a pack, because we have a lot of times it's a business that has all 60 people doing the pack. A lot of times it's just a community event, and there's 2 on Tuesdays. one at 3 and one at 5:30, I think. And they're a lot of fun, you know. They're music, and you're not just standing there. You're walking around the table, so you're talking to a lot of people, and we need that. The other thing we need is drivers. Well, we have almost all the schools adopted. We have a few that we just have to fund and have somebody drive. Or we've had some really big businesses that say, hey, we'll sponsor a school. We just can't do the driving.
Oh, I mean, for, Sandpoint, okay, not the closest place in the world.
No.
Lighthouse Food, their drivers are bringing product. This is so smart. They're delivering product that they create in Hope, drive down here to all the stores. As they head back, they stop. They've figured out on their route that I'm going to fill our truck with food for Bite2Go.
Yeah.
And they drive it up to the pantry up there and drop it off. And that's just, there you go.
Great.
I mean, the guy's going here anyway.
Well, and we have
cool.
a lot of people that just have volunteered, but we need more, volunteered to drive for us. And so they drive a Sprinter van.
Yeah.
And the furthest route is...
well, I know they're going to George.
They go to Lake Chelan. We have a guy that goes to Lake Chelan a couple times a month.
No way.
It's all day, but he likes drive. He's just a fabulous person.
Yeah.
So there's lots of volunteer opportunities. We need lots of help.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a small town and I'm looking around, and sometimes you look around and it's you. That's what you did.
Yeah.
Somebody should do something. It's me.
Yeah.
Right. Will you help them kind of figure out how to organize this? They're not just on their own.
That's kind of our organization I'm part of is at the core.
Yep.
Our job is to make it really easy to adopt a school, and then to mentor them how to build on it, make it grow.
That works for their community.
Right. So if somebody's interested, we'd love to come out and meet with them and really give them the tools and get them set up and make it as easy as possible to run the program.
You get so much out of this, don't you?
Oh, I'm so lucky. A lot of my retired friends, you talk to them, they go, well, yeah, it's kind of boring, and I'm going, I know. I'm having the time of my life.
I got this great pool table here. I got this great bar. You wouldn't believe all these guys are just retired. They come walking in here bored.
Yeah. And I shouldn't. I mean, a lot of them are having a great time.
They are.
The other little part that lays into this.
But they do want to do something.
Yeah. The other little part that lays into this is I'm a terrible golfer. Gail doesn't want me around, so
You better find something.
I got to find something to do.
So, what do you love the most about Spokane, and why still be here? That's the other thing that could happen here. You're done at 58. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go to who knows where, somewhere warm. Right. Why stay here? What is it about this place that you love?
And to be fair, I do get out of here some in the winter. Go to Tucson some.
Yeah. Good. Well, you should. Good for you.
But I just, Spokane is such a wonderful place. I mean, it's a size that there's so many people. You and I were talking earlier about, hey, you know him, and
absolutely.
I know him, but
you know everybody.
You just know people. It's easy living compared to certainly to Seattle. Or I was in Seattle over the weekend. Our daughter's there, and she loves it, but it just the freeways and the hassle. I mean, it's just Spokane's just a great place to live. I mean, it's a great place to raise your family, and not to say we don't have our problems, but I think they're small compared to so many
people
communities.
Are great. I mean, did you imagine you'd ever get to 11,000?
Oh no.
What was your goal when you wrote that on in your room?
I think it was 1,000.
Yeah. Right.
And we have our summer retreat. We're planning it now, and we have a big list of things we think we need to accomplish.
I think you're going to get to that 25. We're sure hoping so.
That's our goal.
I don't know why it couldn't happen. I mean, really, you've done it. It's possible.
Well, what I'm hoping is that people in those communities will realize how much fun they're going to have implementing this.
And proud of it.
And they're the kids that get the food will appreciate it. The school will appreciate it. But frankly, the community and the people donating will appreciate it. I mean, they feel good about doing something in their community that, and they're already doing lots. But this is, what could be more important than feeding a child and helping them feel good about getting educated and feel good about knowing that they're, somebody who's out there cares about them and is feeding them.
Yeah. Well, and I know the other reason that you hang around here is the Zags. I mean, let's
Yeah.
be
Oh yeah.
honest.
Oh, yeah. I go to the men's and women's. I love them both.
Yeah, I know.
We are.
I think
we
they're
are
going to be
blessed
good
with that.
again. I think they're going to be good next year.
Yeah.
Look out.
I think it's fabulous.
They're all coming back.
Yeah. Looks like it, doesn't it?
I think so.
I think we're over that hump of anyone leaving. And I read the
got
other
two
day
more guys.
they still have a couple more scholarships to
Yeah,
give.
and they just got another guy from Arkansas yesterday, something like that. Oh my gosh! I know.
Isn't that that kind of makes the winner, doesn't it? Having
I know it's a very weird world now. I had Chris Stanifer, the athletic director, on here on my podcast. I don't know, a couple of months ago. It was right during March Madness. Chris and I were just talking about how spoiled we are.
Oh,
and I don't know. You and I you've been here a long time.
yeah.
We both grew up here.
Yeah.
We remember when they were just sort of this mediocre 15-15 team, and you didn't even think really. I mean, I used to go to those games because Catholic school kid. We were the halftime entertainment. I mean, we literally pick up game at those. You would just go to games and tickets were free almost, and you just went in. But you and I both have seen this rise.
Oh.
Be a little bit from the inside at times. It's remarkable what.
How lucky are we that Mark Few has stuck around?
Well,
he's had so many offers, but I think he's just he's here the same reason we talked earlier. It's just a great place to live. It's he loves fishing and there's great fishing. For me, I love skiing and Mount Spokane, which I always kind of considered the Kmart of mountains. It's nothing expensive or fabulous, but it's really good.
And it's really close.
Really close. Yeah, when later years we wouldn't go up we wouldn't spend the whole day. We'd go up at 9 a.m. and be done at 1 and go do something else.
Right?
Where else do you get to go do that?
Where's your favorite place to ski?
I like Mount Spokane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's gotten better now, hasn't it? I mean, just in terms of
new chairs
and exactly. My stepson, he snowboards and that's the place because you can get there so quickly.
So we are
and the backside now
really blessed. This place to live here.
Yeah, it's great. Well, thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Really
Thanks
nice.
for being, doing something that you don't have to be doing.
Yeah. I
mean, you don't have to do this.
No. I
but
enjoy volunteering.
I think you've gotten more out of this than
I get so much more out of it.
you do.
It's just fun to, all the people. I mean, I talked about this Awakened Church I was at yesterday. I was, almost in tears leaving the place. The people are so impressive.
And you would never otherwise have met them?
No.
No.
And,
your horizons have been
here
expanded.
they just have a huge heart, and they're going, yeah, we're all in. We'll don't worry about this, Tom.
Yeah, so you must get there must be an endorphin hit from this.
To see somebody, they love Spokane like I do, and just to see them run, yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for doing this, and hopefully we'll talk again, and this will be more than 11,000. I have a feeling it will be.
Yeah.
So again, go to bite2go.org.
Yeah.
And do what you can.
Yeah.
MIP Podcast was filmed at the studio of Corner Booth Media. Please sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere podcasts can be found. We'd love it if you'd rate, review, and subscribe to help our podcast grow. Be good to yourself. Stay interesting.